Our program takes senior quality leaders from FMCG, life sciences and pharma and prepares them to take on the challenges of the future and drive organisational success through the lens of enterprise leadership. If you'd like to learn more, please visit us at qualitytalenthub.com, and I hope you enjoy the episode. So we worked together for about 5 years, Bart, at RB. So I led the quality team there, and we had quite a lot of folks in quality. And I wanted to talk about what you felt was really missing from those guys and their skill set, and what stuff you really wanted to see when you were interacting with them.
Yeah, and I loved working with you, Chris.
Likewise.
Reckitt was a special place, a place that was totally focused on one outcome actually for a while, which was shareholder value. And I think that's where it was a great place to work. And I think the tension between perhaps some of the quality leaders and some of the other people in the organization was something that we had to manage between us, and it was something that we want to try and bring an opportunity for people here with this program that we've launched, Chris, which is all about helping quality leaders think like an enterprise, think about multiple shareholders, think about the stakeholders that they're working with. And that's what I'm excited about.
Agree. I think that for me, I spend a lot of time sort of guiding the quality leadership team in how to interact with the rest of the business. And often they preferred me to sort of carry out those interactions because they felt uncomfortable and weren't sure how to position themselves or how to communicate effectively. And I think part of what we should do with this program is really to try and build those skills um, with quality leaders, so they feel comfortable in front of top management and they're really able to communicate the stuff that they feel is important, but more importantly, know how to communicate the stuff that a senior leadership want to hear. And I felt that was
Yeah.
really missing from a lot of the folks in the quality team at that time.
Yeah, I think sometimes what's unfair for quality leaders is they feel like they're put in a position of being the yes no people, or the kind of almost the control. They have to control what's right and wrong. And what I think I see in the best quality leaders is the ability to realize that actually the organization is connected to that right answer and wants that right answer. I mean, when it comes to safety, no, everybody wants the right answer. Everybody wants safe and efficacious products for
Mm,
consumers. And so I think when I see the best quality leaders operate, they understand that the organization that they're working in, we're one and the same team, and we're trying to achieve an outcome which is from a multi-stakeholder perspective.
mm,
And I think the more you understand all of the stakeholders involved in those decisions, the more successful you will be in making the right decision. And I think that's where quality leaders perhaps have one side of the story sometimes and not the whole side of the story. And that's where I think that's what we're trying to do, I guess, is help
mm,
people see all sides of the story and really get a perspective of that
mm.
from a kind of total enterprise perspective. Yeah.
And I would really agree. I think that uh, part of when you do your quality training, and certainly when I trained as a QP, one of the things that folks talked about was you becoming the conscience of the company. And I think in a way that's not a bad description, but I think there's also a bit of a message of exclusivity there, that sometimes you're solely the conscience, and you're trying to you may feel like you're in a position where you just have to say yes or no, exactly as you said a moment ago, and the rest of the company's not there with you, and you sort of end up in that box of being the person in that says no. So I think it's really important that we do talk to quality leaders and future quality leaders about how to really get past that point of just being the person that says no, and exactly as you say, getting quality leaders to think about um, a joined up approach with the rest of the leadership team and sort of being part of that
Yeah.
conversation.
And what we all encourage, Chris, I think, is for everybody to own quality. And so I think and I thought about that conscience question quite a bit. And actually, I'm not sure it's true, because
Mm,
I think the conscience of the company should sit with everybody.
I agree.
And the conscience of the company, I would be devastated if there was, as a supply chain leader who sometimes, has the perspective of you just want to sell product. I don't want to sell product. I
Yeah.
want to sell safe and efficacious product as much as the quality leaders do.
Mm,
And sometimes, hopefully, more so. And so I'd love to look. To me, quality leaders have a technical understanding, a skill set which is second to none
Mm,
in terms of understanding the product portfolio, understanding the business elements of the quality strategy. But what I'd love to see fundamentally is quality leaders thinking long term, thinking about how the future is going to evolve, thinking about how technology can enable a very different strategy in quality. Because a lot of quality is sometimes about building SOPs to train
mm,
operators to do things correctly all of the time. Well, technology is there to help operators because sometimes there's a lot for an operator to do right
mm,
all of the time.
mm.
And so technology is there to enable, I think, a much more consistent approach to how we do things. And I think quality leaders can not only be the yes, they're clearly there about value creation, creating value, using technology to create value, thinking about what the next 10 years will look like when the Tesla robots are here, when the AI technology
Agree.
is advancing much more, and quality leaders embracing that technology, using it to create value and to really bring to life value creation for both consumers, customers, and shareholders, and everybody else, to be quite frank. So yeah, I think it's really important.
I think that the there can be really huge benefits in that enabling process. So I've been working with a company recently who are looking at their QMS, and they're thinking about how to integrate a large language model so that you can literally look
Mm,
at any deviation or any document in your own local language. And it's an incredibly powerful tool because the learning opportunities you can take a deviation that's occurred in say a site in China, and you can look at that at the site in the site in South America and read the essence of that deviation and really understand it. But I could tell from the quality team that they it was a big challenge for them to enable this process. They got there, and I think it was a real credit to them. But what we want to do is enable more of that thinking for the quality guys to be at the front of that charge and say, look, there's something amazing we can do here. And really to lead that and really add that value to the business. I think that would be an amazing thing that we can really
yeah.
inspire that.
And a couple of things, as you know, Chris, we've got going on. We've got Martin Lush coming to the program. He's going to talk about AI and how technology is really driving different thinking in organizations. We've got a visit to Chemistry, who have developed an automated lab. And a way of typing in a very kind of English way of phrasing an experiment, and then takes that using AI into something very technical, and then
Mm,
automates the lab process. And so, what we're trying to do with this program is also inspire the future through understanding what technology can enable. And then I think if quality leaders can be the drivers of that value creation through technology, which will help people be more consistent, and help organizations be more consistent where they need to be, and then be advanced and future thinking where they can be, and put all their efforts and energy into creating even more value for consumers. That I think is an exciting place to be, and that's I think what we've created the program to do.
mm,
Uh,
absolutely. And when and visiting chemistry, so my undergraduate degree was in chemistry, and I was amazed by the technological leap they've made. Really incredible. And if we can instill that sort of thinking in our quality leads, I think that would be absolutely incredible. Get them to think in that way in the future.
and what's your biggest what are you most excited about from a technology perspective and how it's going to transform quality in the next 10, 15 years, Chris? I mean, where are you at with that?
I think it's really about the technology around AI and large language models about how they're going to really transform things. So I can see that in a number of ways. The first one is how we search for themes and repeat events in things like deviations and kappas, and really seeking root cause in those sort of areas because we can put all the data we have into one of those large language models. So if, a friend of mine is works full time in this area, and he describes AI as an analysis of variance tool. He says it's really perfectly what it's designed for. You put all your data into it, and you can go away and find the things that are driving the data, the underlying causes, in the way that a human can't do. And I think that's going to be super exciting in the way that we design, develop, and build our facilities. We can truly find things that are going wrong at the deepest root cause level and really have an opportunity to fix them. Where a lot of the time today, it's folks with experience, like you and I, looking at data and using our instincts, which are often very good, but never quite as all encompassing as what an AI model can do. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see how that shapes our future in terms of the QMS.
And
Um,
I
Go
couldn't
ahead.
agree more. I couldn't agree more. And we're gonna really spend a bit of time on this on the program, right? And to me, you look at the legal profession and how it's transforming the legal profession because that's all about data and analyzing multiple data points. Well,
Mm,
actually, the quality data in some of pharma and FMCG companies is probably it's probably the source of the most data because quality professionals and the quality
mm.
organization have access to that kind of data. So imagine the power of leveraging that data for insight to make you better, not only from a quality perspective, but also from an efficiency, from a value creation, from a speed to market perspective. The data in quality is hugely powerful to be able to enable many things beyond just making quality better.
100% agree. I think what my vision's always been that at the center of all your systems, so you've got your QMS, your MRP system, your HR systems, all those systems, at the center of them, you want a system that will gather all that data and really make it a single system and look at all those things together so you can say, how has my validation status impacted the efficiency of my running?
Yeah,
How can I predict trends in terms of customer demand? How can I tell if seasonal changes cause changes in my deviations and kappas? Put all these things together, and it'd be an amazingly powerful tool to do that. And
yeah.
I can see that really coming on the horizon in the next few years, and I think it will just transform our industry.
I was yesterday. I was at a conference, and there was a chap there saying how to use data, and he said, the cycling team in the UK were
Mm.
the best for the last 10 years in the Olympics, and they asked him, well, why are you the best in the Olympics? And the answer came back, well, it's broccoli and pillows. And broccoli and pillows? What are you talking about? Well, we analyzed what people ate the day before they got their best times, and we analyzed it down to the amount of calories, the amount of carbohydrates, the amount of this, that, and other. We then made sure we took our own pillows to the Olympics, and we made sure that what they ate the day before, when they had their best performance, they ate before they had the Olympics. So broccoli and pillows, and then we made sure they took their own pillows. And so the point is, the simple things, the data analysis, the understanding of how the data relates to great performance is truly transformational, is how you get brilliant output. And as I say, I can't think of a place where there is more data to enrich conversation to value create than there is in quality.
I 100% agree. And historically, we've been very poor at using that data. So I remember when I started in my first quality manager job, one of the things I wanted to do was look at the stability data for some products to really understand our overall compliance status in the company. And I was just presented with a wall of pieces of paper with just lots of numbers on it. And I talked to the analytical team and said, guys, I can't do anything with this. You've got to come up with a better way to represent it. But the data they had, when you dug into it, was amazing. But really, we didn't have a good way to present that data or to analyze it, and it took a year or two to sort of get that settled down and come up with a way to really analyze that data and seek trends in it. But the data was sat there in the background, and the team had been building it for years, but they couldn't really represent it. And that's the sort of power we want to leverage in the future. Um,
Mm.
I was reading an academic guy recently called Yuval Noah Harari, and he was talking about the future of science being something he describes as dataism, and it's exactly that thing of all the data coming together. And we want to bring all that data from across the entire company, across the factory, and see what it tells us. And I think we'll just find some incredible insights from that. It'd be really amazing. And what we want to do is get our future quality leaders really thinking about that and being excited by it and being keen to use it and seeing it critically as one of the tools in their tool set for for making better medicines. Really want it, and I think it becomes part of our journey then from compliance focus through product focus, and then finally to patient focus because that data will start telling us what's really important for the patient. So we
And
put our complaints data and those sort of things into it.
Mhm. And what makes you where do you think enterprise leadership plays a key role in kind of developing the leadership capability of quality leaders, Chris? What's your take on how we can help them most, and how enterprise leadership can play a role in 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 quality leaders taking that next step?
It's a
And
really
by
good
the way,
question.
sorry,
Yeah.
the other thing is, how many quality leaders have become CEOs? How many quality leaders have become, really genuinely at the top of organizations? And what can we do to enable very capable leaders to be at the top of organizations? And so that enterprise leadership thinking that you expect from a CEO, how can we instill that in quality leaders?
I think it's a really good question, and I think there's a. So I'll deal with the second part first about becoming a CEO. I think we do have a cultural problem here, and I think it's partly caused by how we train our quality leaders. That all our focus is about technical, and I think culturally we do sort of pigeonhole our quality leaders. We put them in that sort of technical box. Um, I remember somebody from somebody I used to work with from Reg who became CEO of a small company, and I was
Ah,
kind of amazed by that, and I thought it was
ah,
brilliant.
ah.
But I don't recall a quality person becoming a CEO, and I think in a way it's a bit of a tragedy because they can bring analytical
It is.
thinking. They can bring a very different skill set um, that could really has the opportunity to transform a business and take it in a new direction. So so I think that it's a great tragedy that's not occurred, and I think it the our future quality leaders and our quality leaders today have some agency over that, and it's about how they can transform their thinking. And I think that the way we need to help do that is through this idea of what drives the company, because quality is part of that process that drives the company. It really is part of it, and it's an essential part, but it isn't the whole story of the company. And I think that if I sort of go back in time to conversations I've had with aspiring quality leaders, they they will really look in their own area and really understand it, but will struggle to understand what's going on outside. And they don't really understand the sort of things the CEO is looking at, um, and 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 they don't sort of have that insight to say where do I need to what do I need to do to get from being quality leader to being enterprise leader. They just simply don't know those things today, and I think that's one of the main things that holds them back. And I think there's nobody out there, and that's why quality leaders to enterprise leaders is so important. There's nobody out there to really give them that toolkit. Those stepping stones aren't visible today. That our quality
Yeah.
leaders don't see them, and I think what we need to do through the program is to help with that process of getting quality leaders to understand how they get there. I just don't think it's in the heads today. I don't think the possibility is in the heads, and part of what we need to do is inspire that possibility. I think to say you're a quality leader today, you can be a CEO, you can be a COO. Those opportunities are open to you,
Yeah.
and you should really think about them and imagine that possibility. And once you begin to imagine it, then it becomes possible. And if you can imagine it, so can other people. So I think that's the inspiration we need to give to our quality leaders.
Yeah, and it starts, Chris, and we talked a lot about this in the program, and curiosity is one of the things that Corn Ferry, who are partners in the program that we've created, talk about as probably one of the most differentiating leadership skills that makes a difference to succeeding in creating anything actually, but particularly in enterprise thinking.
Mm,
And so again, quality leaders, I think, can sometimes be, if you're a marketing head,
mm,
and there's a problem with your brand, and you've had a recall or you've had a problem, the kind of marketing head will take ownership of the brand equity
mm,
and will look to the quality leader to advise. And so that's the relationship that you create with your marketing team.
mm,
The question is how you can turn that relationship into something quite different, which is, not only can I advise you on that kind of thing, but actually, I think I have some really good insights into how we can market our products even better because I understand the quality aspects, the regulatory aspects, the complexity of those things in order to help you either do a global rollout of a product which requires different regulations in different markets, which I can really understand and
mm,
help you. And by the way, in the way I think about products, I think about consumer insight in a different way than a marketeer might think about it. So how do I create a relationship? How am I curious about how marketing is creating branding opportunities for customers and consumers? And how can I create a relationship where the conversation I have with my marketing colleague is much broader than the one I have today? And it is all about value creation for
mm.
consumers in a safe and efficacious way. And so that's what we're also talking about a lot, and that's what we really try and inspire quality leaders to do in this program that we
Mm.
created, Chris. I think that's the key part of the story, right? It's being curious. It's curious about what others are trying to achieve, and meeting people where they are, not just where you are. Yeah,
And I think that that, that uh, I guess part of the challenge we have in quality, and I say that being a quality professional for a couple of years now, that we for the marketing guys, that whole the stuff around curiosity, it's really it's needs to be energetic makeup, because you are really looking to the future and saying, what opportunities are there? How can I find them? And being inspired to come up with new and interesting ideas, different ways to do things. I think part of the challenge as a quality leader, and I put myself into this category as well. You're often the day-to-day stuff you need to do. It doesn't push you into that creative thinking, and we need a bit more self-discipline amongst our quality leaders to say, let's be curious about the future. It's important to think about the next audit, to think about how we're doing on our routine work in quality of closing deviations, improving our systems, those sort of things. Those are really important, but we need to add this idea of being curious about the future and really thinking a different way, and about how do we partner with um, our colleagues in other areas. So, like, what can the marketing guys bring to quality? And to me, there's a lot of stuff,
mm,
because from a quality perspective, we aren't great about flying the flag for quality, about talking about what quality can do for the company. How can our colleagues in marketing help us to do that? How
yeah,
how can we build the brand of quality in the company? How can we build the status of quality? And how can we get the attention of stakeholders that we need? So and I think as quality professionals, we've really sort of missed out on that stuff in the past, about how can those other teams help us. And I think part of being curious is to, when we meet the marketing guys, to say, well, let's talk about this relationship. What can we do for each other? How can we build something more interesting together? And being inspired to try that. And I can imagine that will be a very interesting, very positive, very different conversation,
yeah.
because it probably doesn't happen so much.
And the other thing we've done, Chris, in this program, again, in quality leader, functional leader to enterprise leader, inspired by the work we've also done at London Business
Mm,
School, but partnered with Corn Ferry and others, is uh, i- i- is how do you think beyond? How do you inspire the future in your organization? And how do you inspire the future in a factory or in the operation that you're working in? And again, I think understanding how the business strategy connects to the quality strategy,
mm,
um, and building a quality strategy which is really future thinking, and it sets out what, again, I personally believe in the next 10, 15 years, quality will become much easier.
mm,
I really do, because I think we will automate so many of the tasks which today are difficult to achieve consistently.
mm,
So an operator will have a tool at his disposal that tells him, based on the SOP analysis that an AI agent can go and
mm,
do for him, that says, here's the problem I've got. He'll talk to an AI agent, and it will look at all the
mm,
SOPs, and it will create, okay, here's your next best action based
mm,
on what you're actually currently facing as a problem. And so the ability to be accurate in the actions that you take based on complex SOPs that you're expecting everybody to understand in a way that
mm,
is very hard for anybody to do. suddenly you've got a real opportunity to be much more accurate in doing that. So again, building that, that's just one small example, but then an automated lab or a, or how you think about, consumer relations and data that you get from consumers and how you can use that data to help you build better products. All of those things is about building a quality strategy that is with the consumer in mind and with
Mm,
the value creation of the company in mind. And if we can inspire some of that thinking, I think we can transform the pharma and FMCG businesses where quality becomes an enabler to progress, an enabler to value creation, and a driver
I
of value
agree.
creation. And that's an incredibly exciting place for quality leaders to be. And then maybe we will get a CEO from the quality community.
Yeah, I think it'll be a big day. We get our first quality CEO. That will be an amazing thing. I think that tells us we've succeeded. Then when that occurs, that we've really built out the curiosity, the understanding, the expertise in quality to the right level. I think I think you're absolutely right about how technology is going to transform the future. And one of the ways I can see that is about how we make and release products. So I remember working in a company in the past where we were a CDMO making products for third parties, and everybody wanted their product released fast. And we talked about fast being 30 days, which when you think about it is a mind-bogglingly huge number. And we had products that were released at 200 days. So how do we transform that and get to things like release by exception, so we can release products as we make them. Other industries do that. There's no technical barrier to that. There's no regulatory barrier to that, really. So those sort of transformations I can really see being just amazing for our industry and really changing how we work. And I think that our quality leaders, we want to rely on them to start thinking about mindset as well. A comparison I always make when I'm talking to people is with civil aviation. So if the guys in civil aviation find a problem, they can fix it in they can change global working practice in days across the whole industry. If I think about our industry, we will often have a change in regulations. Will take years to implement it. How can we think differently about that? And our quality leads are the driver for those changes. So if we can inspire them to think in a different way, and to move quickly and change these things, then that becomes a competitive advantage for the company. It really transforms how the company can operate, and the company they're part of can be ahead of everybody by possibly by years. So I
Mm,
think that's a really big deal.
100%. 100%. I mean, if you think even the concept of, trust and verify, right, which is a
Mm,
fundamental principle of compliance, I guess.
mm,
Um, in a world where the data and the ability to interrogate process capability, where it's all completely automated, the data is there, and you can use an agent to help you understand whether the process has been followed to the letter of the law
mm,
or where
mm,
there is a deviation and whether it's acceptable. And even the agent would probably report those exceptions and give you the
mm,
outcomes. You're in total control.
mm,
And in that world, I would argue that your verification is obvious. It's part of
mm,
the process methodology because the agent's doing that work for you. So again, I keep coming. I think the transformational opportunities to completely reinvent the way pharma has developed what I would call old-fashioned SOP control
mm,
or old-fashioned um, data analysis based on paperwork, I think will transform radically. And that's why this is the moment for leaders in quality to think enterprise, the moment to help them think enterprise, to bring perspectives from multiple functions to a program that can help people kind of just think differently, and that's a catalyst for change. And we're excited about bringing that to the quality community, aren't we? Yeah.
I think there's huge opportunity of value creation about thinking about things differently. So if I think about my life as a QP, I've actually spent quite a bit of time sort of looking for missing signatures and that sort of stuff in the past. And it's the sort of lowest level kind of usage of the time and effort of somebody who is in a role like that as a QP. But if we think about a technology transformation, I could be looking at all that overall the AI agents overall view of the factory almost in real time, how
Mm,
it's performing.
mm.
It gives you the opportunity to see emerging trends, to intervene with the help of colleagues, the agent, and to correct those things as they emerge, rather than 90, 100 days after they've happened. So I think
Right.
that would bring amazing value to the company because you could head these things off before they occur. Um, and it's about inspiring our quality leaders to sort of think in that way, to think what can these tools do for us to work in a different way, and bringing that sort of thinking and language to the rest of the leadership team will be really transformational. It will allow quality to be seen in a different light, and then it but starts building that bridge to our first quality CEO, I would say. So it'd be very, very interesting. So from I'm just looking at my questions for a moment. Um, I just wanted to sort of have a reflect on just sort of misunderstandings between quality and supply chain. So
Mm.
for folks watching, I've worked mostly in quality. I did a stint as a production manager, which I found quite tough actually, and gave me a lot more respect for production managers. But I've mostly worked in quality, and I think, Bart, from your perspective, you've mostly worked in supply chain. So I just thought it'd be good for us to have a bit of a conversation about sort of misunderstandings and things that we can often misconstrue between our two functions, if you see what I mean. Um,
Yeah, look, I made a big effort actually to bring them together, particularly at GSK Haleon. And when we created Haleon, which was a spin out from GSK and the combination of Novartis, GSK, and Pfizer consumer businesses, I had the kind of privilege of leading quality and supply chain. And then I renamed the function actually, and we called it
mm,
QSC at Haleon, because I think supply chain starts with quality actually. And so the function was called QSC and still is called QSC, quality supply chain. And so I don't see a tension between the two. Actually, I
mm,
struggle with that question. I
understood.
see a complete rhythmic kind of relationship that should exist. And I always encourage production managers when they talk to QPs to say, "Are you sure you want to release that product? I'm not sure it's right." And I would love it if the operations team were the ones that were the conservative ones and the quality team were the ones that were the aggressive ones, because I think that would demonstrate an understanding and curiosity for each other. And there is nothing wrong with being conservative,
Mm,
especially when it comes to safety.
mm,
So
absolutely.
I struggle with the tension between the two, Chris, and I don't see it. I don't see it. To me, it's and it's often perceived as operations leaders just care about output. I don't think this is true. I think
I
operations
agree with
leaders
you.
care.
Mm,
I think they care about the consumer. I think they care about the customer. If the customer doesn't have a product, there's not much, that's not much use to the consumer or the customer. So, they have to have a safe product. They have to have an efficacious product. They have to have a compliant product. So, I think again, understanding the stakeholders, making sure that all those stakeholders are that you have an understanding of them, and that you're curious about why everybody thinks their way. And clearly, I'm going on a bit, but clearly, look, in compliance, it can be a bit grey sometimes,
mm,
and that's probably where most of the tension exists. And I don't know, Chris, if you've got an example of where that tension did exist and how we're going to talk also on the program about navigating some of that, particularly in the compliance area where it
mm.
gets a bit grey. But yeah.
Sure. I think I have seen that tension a bit. So I 100% agree with you that I don't think I've ever met a supply chain leader who doesn't care about the end user or the patient. I 100% agree. Um, I think what two things that I see occurring seem to occur in the past. One is where the responsibilities between the two teams are not clear. and you can almost get at some point in the process you get a handoff from supply chain to quality. And I think that that can lead to a tension between the two. And then the second one is where the two teams are misunderstanding each other. Um, and I think again that can be a source of tension. So if I give an example of the first one, I did do some work for a company the um, where the supply chain guys would make a product in the factory, and then there'd really be a complete handoff to quality before the product was released, and that led to a source of tension because the guys in manufacturing were on to the next thing they need to make, and they had the punishing schedule, they had a lot of stuff to do. There was huge demand for the products, and then the quality guys would be trying to figure out how can we get this product to the market, and when really they that company was crying out for a QSC organisation where both those teams were in it together and they shared that responsibility until the product was in the hands of the consumer. So I think that, and what I what I counsel the company to do was to move those functions close together and to make them work and exactly the way you're talking about it, as one function. So they shared that responsibility, and they couldn't point to each other when the product wasn't with the consumer. That they both had to fix it. Both teams had to fix it.
And and this is the beauty, Chris, of again, our of enterprise leadership, because it always takes both parties to engage.
Mm,
But what I love about the word leadership is you've got to lead that relationship to work. And this program is about helping quality leaders to lead for the enterprise. And if a quality leader can lead for the enterprise, that is the power. And
mm,
so then they become the enterprise, and then they become the QSC function, not the quality function, and they become the enterprise organization, not the quality function. Do you see what I mean? I think
I do.
the world of functions is to me an unfortunate world. It's a world that doesn't work. The world of enterprise is the world that works, where everybody's thinking for an outcome for the consumer together as multifunctional groups to create a better outcome. And so what we're trying to encourage again is this world of the leader who brings that enterprise thinking will come from a function. They'll come from marketing or sales or finance or supply chain or
Mm,
quality
mm.
because they think broadly about all of those functions. So let's have the quality leaders step up into that role. Let's have them think broadly. Let's have them think about the enterprise. Let's have them think long term. Let's have you think 10, 15 years out.
Mm.
And let's have you think consumer. And so it's a leadership trait, not a functional trait. And a leadership trait is an individual thing,
And
and can
I
be trained and educated and learned.
and I 100% agree with you. I think that what we need to do with the program is to inspire quality leaders to think in that way, because I think the historically there's a mindset challenging quality that we haven't thought of ourselves as the leaders of the company. We've thought of ourselves as the leaders of quality, and I think that's the jump we've got to make. And it's encapsulated in the title, quality leader to enterprise leader. That's exactly the change we need to make in our thinking. And I guess that's a journey I sort of went on in the past. But I just sort of I stumbled onto it really, and it was just sort of almost by accident. The and and probably a lot of that was at Reckitt's when you and I were working together,
Hmm.
that I could see um, the quality just wasn't really working the right way in the company. It was I describe it was almost as when I joined it was almost a kind of a defensive function almost, um, where uh, where we were sort of defending the stuff of quality against the rest of the company, and it was very interesting to sort of try and think differently and sort of build a bridge to the rest of the organisation, and to try and encourage the other folks in quality to sort of come on that journey as well. And I think at the start they were a bit sort of nervous about it, and were worried they would sort of sacrifice things. But I think we didn't it didn't play out that way at all, and we did managed to integrate quality more into the company and improve the voice of quality quite a lot. And that's the journey that we want to inspire people to go on and to really manage that journey and not kind of sort of stumble into it, but really have a vision for how to build quality as an enterprise, quality leadership as an enterprise leadership inside the company, really, and be proactive. And when folks finish the program, is to, or even during the program, is to go into their organisations and think differently and be different and see the world a different way, and really inspire them to do that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so I sort of, I think it's a fair challenge that you said about that tension not being there. I sort of, I get exactly where you're coming from. Um,
Look, I
so,
mean, as a leader, Chris, also one of the things, look, I learned a lot about myself through the course of my career, 35 years and what I tended to do earlier on in my career was what I would call taking control of my responsibility and feeling that it was mine. And
mm,
it's like, uh, that control feeling,
mm,
and pushing people away. And this is mine. I'm managing it. I'm the manager here. I'm the controller here, rather than actually, which I developed, I think, more as I evolved, which was, I'm here to create value. I want to embrace the organization to help create value. I want to inspire outside of my function. I want to inspire the organization. I want to bring the culture of the organization to everyone I talk to across the enterprise. I'm not here as the supply chain leader, which was my role, my quality QSC head, or chief supply chain officer, actually. I'm here as an enterprise leader first and foremost. And I'm trying to inspire an organization. So quality leaders touch at all other
mm,
functions. And if they can inspire other functions as much as they inspire their own function, to because they've got a specific set of skills and knowledge and know-how that many others don't have. And the science community has got something incredibly special in that know-how. That is where I think that inspiration, we're trying to inspire that inspiration, actually,
yeah.
and have people really think about how they can be so much more than just their functional, take on so much more than just their functional responsibility. And we describe it in the following way. I used to go to the beach every morning. I get up early, put the deck chairs out, make sure the deck chairs were looking beautiful, make sure they were compliant with the regulations that were there for the beach authorities, make sure that they were better every day. Every day I got up a bit earlier to clean the beach, to make sure there was no glass on the beach, make sure it was tidy, make sure people weren't going to get hurt, make sure I took a bit more of the beach from the guy next door who was also putting his deck chairs out on the beach. And then I spent 99% of my time optimizing the beach and the deck chairs. And then what I didn't realize was there's a great big bloody wave coming along that's going to topple the beach over and completely transform the way I'm thinking about how I think about deck chairs. And there might not even be a beach. And AI is an example of that, but also
Mm,
value creation and how we think about the future is an example of that. So I learned to spend perhaps, 30% of my time on the wave and what the wave's going to look like, and 70% of my time on the beach, because you can't not, you got to do that. It is
mm.
fundamental to your role. But how can you spend a bit more of your time on the wave, and thinking about what's going to completely transform what you do, and being part of that, in fact, creating that journey and helping create the wave that is going to topple the beach and make you think differently.
And I absolutely agree. I think that, as a lot of quality leaders, we feel beholden to the future, not shaping it, and that's part of the mindset change we need to inspire about what truly can we do to shape the future as a quality leader, and how do we get our hands on that and get hold of it, and really shape it for the company and for the consumer. And I think that we are, um, a lot of quality leaders see themselves as kind of being deluged by the wave, not managing it and being part of shaping what it does. Basically, that's
And
exactly the challenge that we that we want our quality leads to think about exactly the challenge. Okay. I think what I suggest is that I've really enjoyed our conversation today. It's been great
Mm.
fun actually. We talked about
Likewise,
some really
Chris.
interesting stuff.
Mm.
So really good. Um, so I think I suggest we sort of come to a conclusion there.
Yeah.
Seems like a good natural point to end. But really, really good. Really enjoyed it.
Great, Chris. Thank you. Good to connect. And yeah, hopefully we'll have
I
an
don't
exciting program that people will be able to join. So
certainly. I think we've got something really different here. There's lots of great technical training for quality leaders, and there's lots of great leadership training for senior folks in companies. But we've looked and looked, and there's no dedicated enterprise leadership training for quality leaders. I think there's something that's missing, and that's part of the reason that we're not seeing quality leaders as CEOs, because that training, that knowledge acquisition just isn't there right now. So by developing this course, I think we can really bridge that gap for folks, and that's going to be really interesting. This episode was brought to you by QualityTalentHub.com, a high-impact leadership journey for tomorrow's senior executive quality leaders. If you want to learn more, head over to QualityTalentHub.com.